Guys, today I want to give you a brief summary of the absolute global chaos that's happening right now. Not only do the USA have the highest debt levels ever, and Elon Musk also posted something about how much this has increased, saying that it's actually the ultimate bull run, but that's really just due to the explosion of debt that's happening in the US. Right now, we also have the Israel-Iran war, which absolutely does not play into the hands of a bull market. Despite all of this, I am still very bullish. I'll show you something from Nasdaq in a moment. This is a post on the Nasdaq website itself. We'll get to that in detail in a moment. If it actually comes to an invasion now, if the US perhaps gets involved in the Iran-Israel war, then we would have the opportunity to buy a really fantastic dip. Don't get me wrong. No one wants this war, no one wants this to happen, but I want to make a comparison. We also have a summary here showing how much the S&P 500 has risen after each invasion, where the low was, and how strong the recovery was. That would be an incredibly good opportunity to buy new lows here, maybe to open new longs. We also must not forget that today, in about 10 hours, we have the Fed interest rate decision. The problem here is that at 99.9% probability, interest rates will remain the same as things currently stand. I think that wouldn't necessarily be the most bullish event for the market. And if you look at Bitcoin right now, I've marked this for you as well. Sorry for bringing this up here again. Currently, after yesterday's recovery, we've once again broken out to the downside. That means our upward trend has once again left this area, and at least on the smaller time frame, we are now forming a bearish pennant. If this bearish pennant actually plays out, it would take us to price levels of around $100,000. We'll see how it all plays out. And that would finally be it. And if this topic tease liquidations at $100,000 to $99,000 were checked off, I'd be absolutely happy, because then we would have cleared out that area and would have the chance to finally reach new highs again. But what else could push us even lower? If America were to actually say no end, these are the posts that Donald Trump is currently making. That's really not good. Are we talking about a complete capitulation here? There was news that Iran might be ready for peace talks, but here too Donald Trump said it's absolute fake news, not true. He also knows exactly where the Supreme Leader is hiding, and he would actually be an easy target to kill. But at least for now, that's not part of the plan. That's how he puts it, more or less. But he doesn't want any more rockets fired at civilians or possibly even at American soldiers. And patience is really already at its limit right now. It's hanging by a thread. Of course, these are not good news for the current war situation. But we'll also take a direct look at the liquidation map. You can see here on a 1-week basis, we currently have a total of 1.2 billion in liquidations below us, accumulated across the entire price range up to 98,000. But down here, there isn't all that much clustered together. We're only talking about 1 week that has accumulated here. In contrast, there are 2 billion accumulated up to a price range of $114,000. And you can see the liquidation spikes here, especially in the price range from 109,000 to 196,000. That's extremely high, and there's actually quite a lot there, and we're only talking about Binance for now. If you also take a look at Ethereum, you'll see that for Ethereum, at least on a 1-week basis, there's still something up to 2,400, but really nothing significant here. Overall, we're talking about 481 million lying below us, but above us, the short liquidations. There we have an accumulation of 1.64 billion US dollars that has built up here. But for the market makers, this would mean that there's much more interest in moving upwards to trigger these short liquidations so they can pocket that cash again. Yes. In the meantime, I'd also like to ask you to leave a comment on my video and maybe give it a like. That boosts my algorithm, and for those who haven't subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and do it. I really try to provide you with as much value as possible, especially trading content and chart analysis. Not just that, of course everything is combined with crypto news, but also so you can see how I conduct my analyses in order to enter my trades, most of which I close profitably. And now, if we look at the super interesting thing I mentioned earlier, the Vietnam War, you can see here that during the invasion and afterwards there was an increase. During the Gulf War, at the time of the invasion, there was this invasion and afterwards a massive increase. There was also the Afghanistan War. During the invasion, there was a massive increase before, for the only time it really went all the way down again. But the Iraq War that was in 2003 at the time of the invasion, we saw a massive increase. And in 2014, we had the same scenario. But here we are only talking about the S&P 500, which was analyzed here for the Nasdaq. And in 1974, 1980, you can look up this data here. Maybe you can also take a screenshot. There you can see where these market lows were. On which date? How much did the S&P 500 lose at most during this period? And what was the return after 6 months? Even if some areas still show a negative value here, for example, in 2007, we went from minus 55.5% to minus 15.1%. That means we had a price increase of about 30% here. We're only talking about the S&P 500, and in the cryptocurrency market, as we know, the volatility is much higher and a lot more can happen. Of course, prices could continue to fall, but the recovery will be just as strong in return. This means that if something really does happen, we ultimately have excellent opportunities here to buy new lows or to go long on them. But before we get too bearish now, no, let's not do that, because we've already experienced quite a lot this year. We already had the first attacks between Iran and Israel, which pushed the price down. Then we had Donald Trump versus Elon Musk, which drove the price down even further. And now, once again, we have a scenario that has pushed the price down. But every time we've seen these price dumps, if we look at it, they've brought us to this loss, this upward trend. And yesterday was really no different, except that we briefly dipped below it, and now we're seeing a recovery upwards. We definitely should not confirm a break downward through that level. What's even more important is precisely this area here. I'll quickly highlight that for you. This is a massive demand zone that we have here. We had a long period of consolidation there before we then regularly found support, sometimes briefly dipping below. But overall, this is a demand zone that has repeatedly provided us with support. But even with the last dip and with this dip, we've entered it again. And as long as we don't break down through this demand zone, I actually still see this as rather positive. But the volume profile also shows us this, because this exact demand zone is still our last major volume support before things move further down. And our next support is more around 100,000 to 99,000. You can see this a bit better on the daily chart if we include this previous price range here and zoom in a little. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. Where the VPVR has now rebuilt itself, that's the price range we shouldn't fall below, because then we would temporarily have less volume. You can see these small wicks down here at 100,000. We've already touched this area once and twice, exactly this price range here. And that could actually provide us with some support again. This would also tie in with those 100,000 US dollar liquidations. Not only that, and if we even wick just a little below that, we also have the next demand zone underneath, which would actually bring us to huge volumes. That's something we definitely don't want to see. So at the moment it actually still looks good, since we haven't broken below this price level yet. Because technically speaking, I honestly don't see a bullish reversal at the moment either. Normally I would look for a bullish divergence, which isn't present. On the daily chart, the RSI is right in the neutral zone at around 50. That means, of course, things could go either way from here. What will really be decisive, and if we look down, it's kind of a little meme. In the past, people used to do fundamental and technical analysis, and today you just look at what Trump is doing on X. And that's actually the case, because every time something gets posted there, whether positive or negative, the price reacts massively. So today, let's also see how the market reacts to the Fed's interest rate decision. I think that's going to be even more exciting, because at the moment I still have all my positions open. I have my long position, this 5X. Unfortunately, I didn't close it in profit when we were at nearly $108 or $107, but I would continue to build it up if we go down. Ethereum is still holding with a good entry at 253. But now there's this 100x long leverage that I showed you quite some time ago. Other than that, I still have the 20-0 Ethereum position, of which 4-0 has been realized and 3-0 is still open. XLP here, that's what I mentioned. With every pump, I take out a few XLP. If we drop again, I buy more. That's what I did this morning. If we pump again, I'll take out a few more XLP. This is really just for growing the amount. And then I still have the 3-0 currently open in Bitcoin with 1,890 realized so far. But this one should also be scaled again soon. The trading bots, which I will keep you updated on in every video from now on, as you can see, the ones that have been running for a long time, no matter what happens in the market, they are still overall in profit. And that's the reason why you should let them run for a long time. The first one hasn't been open for that long yet. There are $5,000 in it, but even that is very manageable. That at this point in time, given the price we had, it's only a $43 loss. But here too, I am very, very confident that it will keep running. Then I also have the 3x leverage longbot, which I set up in the tutorial video. And here as well, you can see that it is overall in profit. It really does its job wonderfully. Accordingly, in the next live session, I will open a larger one, but only with 2x leverage, so I can really sleep peacefully. If you haven't seen the video yet, I'll link it again at the end, or check out my channel, 100% passive income. This really generates passive income here without any headaches. To wrap up, I'd like to quickly go through Solana and XLP with you. I analyzed them today as well. Unfortunately, we're currently forming a descending triangle in the long-term view for Solana. For quite some time now, we've been making lower highs, which isn't very encouraging, and we're still seeing lower lows as well. In this demand zone that I've marked here, we've had support twice now. We had a good recovery in this area, but we just can't manage to make a higher high and are still stuck in this downtrend. Now things are about to get interesting. What will happen, of course, in the global context? Here too, there's neither a bullish divergence nor anything similar that could trigger a reversal at this point. But it's exactly these kinds of moments that often bring surprises. We see something similar with XLP. Overall, XLP looks very good to me. For one reason, we have a descending trend channel. A descending trend channel eventually comes to an end, and if we keep making lower lows and lower highs here, it would lead to a structural break sooner or later. So that we can say, okay, our lower highs and lower lows eventually start to reverse, and we begin to form a bullish structure. The only problem I see at this point, which I don't really like, is that, again, there's no bullish divergence or anything like that. And the highest volume is above use. In other words, the largest traded area is above us. On the one hand, it's interesting because in this price range, buyers and sellers seem to be pretty much in agreement. But being below it might not be a big advantage since the next support zones we have. And we can see that here, which we shouldn't fall below, are at about 1.9 and 2.07. What we've also marked with these lines is that we shouldn't break below them, because if we do, the volume will start to drop off significantly. Also, looking at Ethereum, if we take a look here, you can actually see strong consolidation. Back then, we already said that this would be ideal. At this point, I don't really think it's so ideal anymore because it's been going on for quite a long time now. Maybe it will take even longer before we see a breakout here. But again, the RSI on the daily chart is at a wonderful neutral value, which is very good at this point in time. That means if we continue to recover here because we keep consolidating, sooner or later we would actually have the chance for a bullish reversal. However, it is important to definitely break through the price range confirmed at $2,800 to the upside. And finally, BlackRock. Yes, for me that's the indication. As long as BlackRock isn't starting to transfer Bitcoins and Ethereum to Coinbase, but instead all the coins are actually being transferred from Coinbase to the BlackRock wallet, I still see all of this as bullish. Because in the past, as I mentioned in my previous videos, I always said, hey, BlackRock is selling off, and there were always these price dumps in cryptocurrencies as a result. And as long as they're still buying here, yesterday it was a bit less, but all in all, for me, that's still a sign that we are currently bullish. If that were to change, I would also change my opinion, at least in the short term, because then I might open short positions and sell off some of my coins. Why? If BlackRock does that, and they've been leading the way for us since BlackRock started buying, Bitcoin has seen incredible price increases. When BlackRock sold, Bitcoin experienced an incredible price drop. Last time it was 35% during that one correction. And the big players like BlackRock, I think they know what they're doing and they might even have more information. So let's wrap up the video for today. I don't even know how long this ended up being overall, but as mentioned, leave a like. I would really appreciate it. It gives my soul peace in the algorithm, and a comment would make me happy too. Until next time, bye bye.